Tom Farmer, former athletic director, transportation director for the Bryant School District. When I started back in 1990 and as the head football coach and athletic director here, one of the guys that came to me and said, "Hey, you don't know who I am? I'm Terry Dalrymple. I'm a math teacher." And he said, "I used to be the filmer for the football games." And I said, "What do you mean used to be?" And he's grinning the whole time and smiling. And he said, "Well, I figured with a new coach, they'd get a new filmer." I said, "Well, are you broke?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, is something broke that I need to know that you can't film the games?" And he said, "Well, I can film the games." I said, "Good, you're hired until I leave as coach." And we developed a friendship after that. And you've never met a person in your life like Terry Dalrymple. Always had a smile on his face, always had a positive word to say. No matter what the situation was, he always had something to make it brighter and better for people around him. I'll never forget one time I was watching the game field, and as I'm watching the game field, it's right before halftime, about 2 minutes before halftime, all of a sudden the camera goes from the field to the stands where people are walking in. I'm thinking, what in the world is Mr. Dalrymple doing? And I look up and in walks Steve Finley. So after the game, after I watched it, I called Mr. Dalrymple and I said, "Mr. Dalrymple, what were you thinking? Why did you go from the game to Steve Finley?" He said, "Well, the game wasn't that interesting, and it's the first ball game that Steve Finley'd ever been to since I've been here, so I thought it'd be good for you to know he was here." He said, "So I put the camera on him," and I thought, well, okay, that makes sense to me. I've never met a person in my entire career that could say one negative thing about Terry Dalrymple. He's one of those Hornet fans that bled blue, that always talked positive about it. Back in those days, the Bryant Hornet football team, we didn't win a lot of ball games, but Mr. Dalrymple, after talking to him, you would have thought we won every ball game. After every game, he had something positive to say, whether it was, "Hey, did you see the way the kid caught that ball? He didn't drop it this time. Isn't that great?" Just some kind of positive remark after every ball game when he'd bring the film. And that's the kind of person he was. Not just about sports and athletics and about students, but about life in general. It's my privilege right now to introduce Mr. Terry Dalrymple into the Hall of Honor because he is much deserving. He is what a true Hornet fan is all about. And that's being positive about the kids, the coaches, and the team. Thank you, Mr. Dalrymple, for all you did to build the Hornets up through all the years you served.
My name's Richard Chumley. Tommy has been a lifelong friend of my family for several years, dating back to my elementary years, 4th grade, 5th grade, where we first met him playing youth basketball. He's been, if people of my age and older grew up, knows that there was always a Tommy Powell around the sports scene, basketball, softball, baseball. He umpired both of those sports, refereed high school basketball, junior high basketball for years and years, mentored coaches and young men into the referee and umpire professions, some doing today, two or three doing Division I basketball. One of them is in a NBA Development League refereeing as well. Many high school, many of them doing high school basketball games. He's been a pillar of the community for recreation sports. Always, October rolls around, everybody knew that Mr. Tommy's basketball league was going to be firing up, and has affected thousands of kids and families throughout the 43 years that league was around. Just a staple of the community, and couldn't be more proud to see him inducted into the Hall of Honor. I think he was very well deserving, and congratulations.
I'm Bob Bidlow, and myself and Joe Wagner was fortunate enough to coach these young men that we're honoring tonight. And the first thing I'd like to do is tell you a little about some of the adversity that they faced before they were successful. Now, in 1958, when they were ninth graders, there was no junior high program at Bryant, and the first experience with organized football was in the ninth grade with the varsity team. And because of the low number of players, some of them had to play. So this first year wasn't very good for them. They ended up with a 0-10 season. And in '59, I had the opportunity to become the head coach. And the school board people, before this, people in the league, the older guys had advised me, if you want to stay in coaching, then you need to leave Bryant. But I didn't take their advice. I accepted a head job. The school board agreed to buy new equipment. The community got together and constructed a football field over in the baseball area on the city park, and a few of the opponents complained about the lighting and the hard surface, but we were glad to have it. And then in '59, these guys were kind of enthused looked like something was going on at least, and so they ended up with a 4-5 season, which doesn't sound too impressive, but after 0-20, well, it wasn't too bad. And so we finished the season that year with a 8-1-1 record, one tie and one loss. I think probably the most important thing of that season is there was a complete turnaround in the community and the school as far as the spirit. We had a school spirit. No longer were the kids ashamed to wear the white and blue. They were proud of it. And I think this team set a precedent for the ones to follow. And of course, they did a pretty good job of it. Congratulations to this football team. Did a wonderful job.
First of all, congratulations to Karen Aston for being inducted into the Bryant Hall of Fame. When they first asked me to say a few words, I immediately thought back to 1982 when we won the overall state championship. I always thought Karen would go far, but that is not without sacrifice and great effort. We were in the finals of the state championship game against Eudora, and we were down by 1. Coach Webb called timeout and drew up a play for Karen to score the winning basket. But Karen was not open, and she saw that I was underneath the basket. She passed the ball, and I scored the winning goal. And we advanced to the overall state championship game against Batesville. Because of Karen's insight and ability to read the defense, she did what was best for the team. Over the past 30 years, she has had many great accomplishments, including becoming the head coach of the Lady Longhorns. I knew from that championship game that you were going to do great things. We are all very proud of you. Congratulations, Karen.
My name is Danny Westbrook, and I'm speaking to honor Brian Barriola. I was Brian's cross-country and track coach throughout his high school career. 3 things come to mind that set Brian apart from other athletes. 1, he was extremely physically gifted as a distance runner. Genetically, he picked his parents very well. He was fast, but he also had the ability to shift into a kind of overdrive speed at the end of a race. It was a quick change of pace kick that most people just could not cover. I watched him utilize that overdrive to win several races. The second thing that sets him apart was his work ethic. Even though he had great speed and could outrun just about everybody, nobody outworked Bryant in practice. The third thing was his leadership ability. He was a pretty quiet guy, but boy did he lead by example at practices and meets. When you talk about Bryant's high school accomplishments, you have to start the story back in his sophomore year. Up through the 10th grade, Bryant was a pretty average runner. He hadn't fully committed to training and needed to be really good. Enter Bodie Nance. Bodie was a Bryant graduate and an all-conference runner at Arkansas Tech. Bodie saw the potential Bryant had. They started running together, and Bodie shared valuable experiences and techniques about racing. Bodie also helped push Bryant's training mileage up over 60 miles per week. The benefits from their relationship became obvious over the next 2 years. In cross country, Bryant did not lose a race against Arkansas competition his junior or senior year. In his junior year, he won the 1991 individual state championship by a close margin in a dramatic finish, leading the Hornets to their first team state championship. Then as a senior, he repeated as state champion, only this time he won by a huge margin, covering the 5K distance in 15:38. That time still stands as the Bryant school record. He capped off his senior year by winning the 1600 meter state title with a time of 4:19, setting the school record that also still stands today. Bryant competed in college for UALR and was named All Sun Belt Conference in 1995 and 1996. One specific wow moment that I remember about Bryant was his victory at the 1991 state championship. I was positioned about 150 yards from the finish, where I was keeping score in the team competition. Bryant had made up a 30-meter deficit in the last 150 yards to win the race by a lean at the finish line. If I could use one word to describe Bryant Barriola, it would be competitor. Bryant had a lot of natural talent and a great work ethic, but what made him so successful was his will to win. He did not like to lose, and he didn't very often. Brian, you honored Bryant High School as a result of your fantastic athletic performances. It's now time for it to honor you. Congratulations on your induction into the Bryant High School Hall of Honor.
I'm a member of the Hall of Honor Board, and my privilege to introduce David Smart to you today. David and I came to Bryant High School at the same time. He was a 10th grader, and I was a first-year coach, 1981. And got to meet David his 10th grade year. Junior year, David really came on and started playing well for us in football. He had grown from a gangly little 185-pound kid to about 220 and really started playing well. Track season rolled around, and toward the end of track season, he popped a couple good throws in the discus and the shot and gave us hope that he was going to be very special as a senior. Senior year came along, and David had filled out from that 180-pound kid to about a 260-pound football player. Had an outstanding senior year. 2 games really stand out in my mind. We played Cabot, and they had a young man who was also going to Arkansas, and what a battle. It was a great football game. From the aspect of just watching that individual battle throughout the night. The other game stands out in my mind was Watson Chapel. Toward the end of the year, we had not had a particularly successful year. Coach Bryant, our head coach, came in the office and said, guys, I'm going to tell you what, we're going to win this football game. We're going to do it because we're going to run behind David Smart. If we're going right, David's going to be on the right. Dave Chapman and Mark Alpy. If we're going to go left, we're going to put those 3 guys on the left, and we're going to run the football. And we did, and ran for about 250, 300 yards that night, and got the victory. End of the season rolled around, and David, All-State, was named All-State, very deserving. Numerous honors from the different Democrat and the Gazette. Track season rolled around. David was a dominant force in high school track that year. threw 171.7, I believe it was, in the discus, 53 and change in the shot, won the state championship in the discus, finished second to meet the champions, and still holds 35 years later, he holds the Bryant High School record in the discus and in the shot. That spring also, Lou Holt showed up from the University of Arkansas and said, young man, we would like for you to come up and play football at the University of Arkansas. And David, to my knowledge, became the first Bryant athlete to sign to play at the University of Arkansas. He went up there and redshirted and filled out and grew, and then ended up starting 2 years for them at offensive tackle. So not only signed, but actually was a major contributor in their program, played in several bowl games, just did an outstanding job. Very honored tonight to introduce David Smart as a member of the Bryant High School Hall of Honor.